Okay, so I am now working on the edits for editing work items. So the last two videos were on listing and creating. I'm on the wrong issue. So let's get started. So I already created the branch. We're just gonna kind of fly through this one. So first up again is create a work item module. I also, just as an aside, I have downscaled my screencast to be in 720p, so if it's a little blurry, please let me know. So class work item command so again we're just gonna be so yeah, we are just gonna be doing a lot of the stuff that we did before. So help work item description, the work item for the program, verbs, edits. Yeah, so this one we're going to be working on edits, which is a new verb for this branch. But yeah, otherwise should be pretty easy. Verb. Return. Oh, I think there's a case. I'm a little lazy on this stage, so I'm just gonna copy and paste some of this. And I'm gonna leave the help kind of generic and not helpful because I'll fix that later. Edit a work item. That's fine. In terms of the command line parser, notice on this branch there's no create, even though we just worked on that, and that's because it's on a different branch. So instead we're going to add edit, and again also for here we need to add a work item. And when we get down to kind of our list of valid nouns and whatnot, we're going to be adding a work item as a noun and a new hash sets for verb.edit. And that should be enough modifications on that side. And did I? Oh, okay, good, excellent. So next thing to do is we need to edit a work item. So what should we do? Well, just like create, remember with create we return the work item itself, so that it helps with testing. We want to do that with the work item as well, or with edit, I mean. So work item, and we're going to say edit, and we're going to say we need the ID. I'm going to say the ID can be a string. I'm going to convert it to a integer later. So we're going to get an ID. If you look at our issue, it receives an ID, it receives a field, and then it receives a new value. And these actually all need to be all required. So let's figure that out. So string ID, field, and then string value. So this few steps. So edit is kind of if I was to list like the complexity of the CRUD applications, I would say the complexity goes from like listing to create to maybe deleting, and then edit's like the most complicated one. And that's because there's more cases to think of, because you actually have to look up something and then modify it in place and then save it. So the first thing we need to do is fetch our work item. So I'll just say result equals db first find, maybe. It finds an entity with a given primary key values. Oh, you know what we have to do is get work items and then find. And the key values, if you look at our model, we just have one ID, and this is actually the primary key. Entity Key Framework Core will actually it's one of those implicit things, which I'm not a fan of. But if it sees a field with the name ID, and especially if it's an integer, it'll know that it's a primary key. So what we need to do is parse the ID, because we receive it as a string, and then if you look at our models, it's an integer. So let's do that. We're gonna say our I don't know how to, maybe like a capital integer. Parses a span of UTF-8 characters into a value ID. So int ID equals int parse ID. Local, oh, you know what, I'll say parse ID. Okay, and we want to peek into here. So it's going to have some exceptions. I'm not decided at this stage whether I want to catch these exceptions or not. Yeah, actually I will, because and then here's my rationale. So one of these things that can be thrown is a format exception. So basically, as I try to parse the string, it could be giving me a format exception. And if you recall, back when we were creating a work item, we can get that same format exception when we're trying to set an invalid date time. Right? So if you give it a invalid date time as a string and you try to parse that, it gives us a format exception. In those cases, we have two of the same exceptions but thrown in different circumstances, and that's why I want to try and catch these. So I'm going to set these equal to -1 first. Oops, and then I'm going to try. Oh, and we need to bring this guy up here. Equals. I'm going to catch. I think format. It's also like a overflow, 32 byte signed integer. So this could also pose an issue because our integer IDs only start at 1, but it's a signed integer, and so I forget, we're up to like 4 or maybe 2 million records before we get to an overflow. But I'm not worried that we have that much usage. So it's argument null, format, overflow. Probably on all of these cases, the user gave us an invalid ID. So I'm actually gonna do the catch-all exception. So we're gonna just catch everything, which I think we can just simplify as catch. And we're going to throw instead a new argument, invalid ID. Right, so we know in any of these cases we're going to have an invalid ID. And let's try to find this fellow. it's saying that DB might be null, but dereference, it shouldn't be because we set it. Entity find or null. Well, that's fine. So if the results, oops, equals null. We're gonna throw a new argument, exception. So like not found. File not found, culture. And I'll say argument exception. Though it's, I'll say file not found, because that's like maybe the closest. But the description of it, yeah, I would say another exception. ID invalid ID, not an integer. Work item does not exist. Okay, and so you already can see that the edit is kind of the most peculiar of the or the most complicated of the CRUD functions. So the field can be one of two things. Yeah, it could be the due date or it could be the title. So we're gonna have, to make this easy, we're gonna make an enum. But you could just do like a you know, if title equals this, or if blah blah blah. And because I don't remember how to do enum, so I'll look over here. So enum fields. Or it should be just a field. Title or due at. Enum field f equals try parse. I've got a meeting coming up, but there's something like parse whatever, parse enum.try parse. Okay, enum.try parse, and it's going to be a field, and we're going to give it the field. What? When he wants? Oh, he needs an out. Oh no, variable. Oops. Out F. Exceptions argument. So yeah, so this one will need another. Maybe there's a better way to do this, but I'm just gonna do it this way. So in the parse, try parse. Yeah. Oh, otherwise it's false. Do I have it in a try? No. I just have it in if. If. Which just means we're good. To make this like easier, maybe if I did this, I'm gonna throw another argument, exception. And we'll say it's an invalid field. and then we will switch on the value. Oh, switch on the field, I mean. Case be field dot title. In this case, this is like the easy case. Result dot. Why is result a string? Result dot member dot edit. Result equals value. Work item. Oh, so yeah, we're running into that same issue. If the DB context, I'll go up here and I'll say this has to be models. Excellent. Case field dot do that. We gotta now try parsing that. You might notice here that this reminds me a bit of code from the create function where we had to set the do at, and yeah, later we might have to refactor a bit. But what we might notice is that the refactoring kind of comes after we did both of these works. So in other words, it's not always worth it to prematurely refactor or prematurely optimize our code. Sometimes you have to just get it on there and then look at it and then take a break and refactor. And so that's what the next thing is going to be. So datetime parsed do at. Let's say it's null. I think there's a try parse for this. Try parse. Oh, here we go. Value parsed do at, and we'll say it's out. And it's the same pattern as this up try parse. In this case, result.do at equals parsed do at. Else we're gonna have to throw a new argument exception. Value provided. So that's another throw. This is kind of one of my issues with. And then we just say throw. So yeah, you can see that the code is getting quite long. There is a style of program called functional programming that makes this all easier, but or arguably easier, but we're not going to worry about that now. Invalid field. So by this point in the code, we should be good to actually update our thing. And I'm pretty sure there's updates. Work items dot. Is there an update? Update. Results. tb.workitems.save changes, and then return the result. Excellent. So I don't know why. Oh, you know what? This cannot be nullable. So I'm not going to bother implementing the execute fully here, at least in this video. What I'm going to do instead is just work on the text. Actually, I can just leave this blank. Just work on the tests, because the execute's going to be very similar to create anyways. So first things first, we got to go to the DB model. DB paths. And then we see it's just DB path here. We're going to create another work item tests.ts. I'm just going to copy paste this stuff here. Namespace, work item tests. Oops. Public class. Is this public class? Yep. Work item test, which implements that. Okay, so just in the last couple many minutes, and I'll just fix the DB tests thing too. Oh yeah, LMS dot models that. And so just for an example of a test, the important thing to know here is that in our test environment, there's never going to be a, by default, there's not going to be a work item. So we have to add that in our range and then edit it. So var like edit, we'll just say edit equals LMS dot models dot work item. Oh, you know what? We have to make it a new. And we'll say the title, work item 1. And that's all we actually need, right? And we need to insert that. So in our DB itself, items dot add edit, and then db.save, and then var expected title be equal edited title. Then in our act, we'll say that the var actual equals work item dot execute. When did I did all this work? Oh, I didn't make it a public. Edit. We'll say it's edit.id. The field should be title, and then the new value is expected title. And then in our assert, we'll just assert the equal expected title, and then the actual title. Oh, string Can I just do this? Can I just make it capitals? Oh, you know what? I maybe just add toString. Yeah, and I have a meeting in like 8 minutes, so let's just hope this works. And then if so, I will finish the rest of the test. Because I don't think it's worthwhile to go through all of that labor. But you notice in this case that our tests will be a little bit more plentiful, like not more. Fine was of type string, we're just not patch. Oh, so this is whole parsing stuff. Oh my gosh, does it parse the string for us? Alright, so. Oh, parsed. Okay, so in this case, I tried to provide the ID instead of the parse ID. Blah, blah, blah. Yay, it passed. So as I was saying, when I do write the tests, it's gonna be I think there's going to be a lot more tests than the create or list, and that's because we have all these conditions where exceptions can be thrown. Right, so I want to test, what happens when I provide it with an invalid ID? What happens when I provide it with like a negative ID or something like that? What happens when I give it an invalid field? What happens when I give it an invalid date time for a field? And what happens, I think that actually covers it, right? So, but yeah, hopefully you'll see that. Maybe I'll make a video after I make all of those tests just to go over them. Otherwise, you can review them on the pull request itself. But yeah, with that kind of completes the work here. I'll also implement the execute, but keep in mind the main important bits to kind of get to learn from is the implementation of the business logic or adding and editing and whatnot. How it executes really just depends on all of that, and then it just prints out something pretty. The important bits really is all in here. And with that, the only last function to implement for work items is the delete, which I'll do in a final video. But that one should be very easy because you're just looking for an ID and then deleting it. So yeah, I'm not sure if I actually make a video. But in any case, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.